Go friends, trust that you are going well. Looking forward to the end of the year, looking forward to the anticipation of continued easing of restrictions. Just been thinking over the last few days, I don't know if the right word is irony, but the sense that November 11th is our National Day of Remembrance, the National Day of remembering the signing of the Armistice on November 11th at 11 a.m. in 1918, 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, that ceased the First War, the Great War, the war that was meant to end all wars. A day of remembrance because signing the peace, but also remembering those lives that were lost, lives that were taken way too young, the pain and the anguish that was suffered for generations afterwards, and the understanding that we never really wanted to participate in this again. And my question today is, how good are we really at remembering? Because remembering is a space to learn and reflect and make different decisions. It struck me the irony of having Remembrance Day and over this course of this week, celebrating NAIDOC Week, the National Aboriginal and Islander Day Observance Committee that has been around for almost 100 years, is my understanding. It's been around for a long period of time. The gap between wanting to remember the signing of a peace deal that would hopefully mean that we never fight another great war, be involved in war never again, remembering the lives that have been lost, and the gap in terms and the struggle to have a conversation about what it looks like to remember the first people and to honour the first people of our nation, to include the first people of our nation in conversations, those who have been oppressed, stolen, tribes wiped out, languages wiped out. What does remembering look like? What does inclusion look like? It struck me also the challenge of this as about 100 k's away, a bit over 100 kilometres away, maybe 125 kilometres away, there's a current conversation. Our government and agencies and Vic Roads want to duplicate the highway further out from Ballarat to Horsham, which should be a great asset to Horsham. And in the middle of that, outside, there's been an embassy, an Indigenous embassy set up to protect some trees of significance for our First Peoples, the Indigenous people of our land and the tribes. And the money that's been spent in going to court by the government and by the agencies, and I admit I don't understand everything, to ensure that those works can happen. And again, the gap in that, whereas I live in a city that has been talking about a bypass for years, but we can't agree on which piece of land we should use. The nature of remembrance and what we choose to remember because of what we value or the power that we hold or the systems that hold us in power is really quite challenging. And in the midst of this, I reflect on the words of Jesus, who gathers around with his closest disciples. And again, whatever you think of Jesus, this is who I am, this is what I do. When Jesus came amongst us, people wanted him to serve the kingdom, to serve the system, to change the world through military power, through power that people understood, to overthrow the Roman rule and to set religious power in its place. And actually, he came to show us a different way. And he actually came to show us a non-violent way that was accepting of all people from all walks of life, from all races, creeds, backgrounds, lifestyles. And then he gets around this meal that had been celebrated for hundreds and hundreds of years. And he says, when you participate in this meal, I want you to remember me. The nature of remembrance is not just having a thought about it, but it's doing something with it, participating in it. As I remember Jesus, I'm called to remember in his way of life, to participate in his way of life. And that's not about military power. It's not about financial power. It's not about political power. It's not about serving in positions of power, although if we are Christians in positions of power, then we serve and we influence those positions of power with the heart of Jesus. And the heart of Jesus was to be a way without condemnation, was to be a way that did correct people when they got out of step or missed out or misaligned with the heart of a loving God. And it was a way to non-violence, a non-violent way. And yet so many things that we've done violently in the name of Jesus. And he says, actually, when you participate in this meal, when you use my name, when you reflect on my name, when you remember my name, there has to be a different way. There has to be a different way. And we would all know that the ways that we're doing and going at the moment, they are not working. They are not working. We are a fragile, broken world. And maybe we need to take up a different way of remembering.